We're on the air.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of your favorite alliterative program, Tap Talk. I am James Valk, one of the co-artistic directors of Third Avenue Playhouse.
And I'm Bob Bowles. I'm the other co-artistic director of the Third Avenue Playhouse.
And today's guest is the rock star, Ryan Schabach. Hi, Ryan.
Hello, thanks for having me on, James Bob. I appreciate it.
Welcome to our Tap Talk. For those of you who haven't seen Ryan at Tap in a while, here's some of the shows that we've done together. Well, Ryan and his beautiful, charming, lovely, and cheap wife, Kay Almond. Everybody's cheap. Kay Almond, together, collectively, and usually both at the same time, lucky for us, the shows they've done with us are The Glass Menagerie, House of Blue Leaves. Ryan directed that one. Kay was in it. 39 Steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Greater Tuna. Kay was not in that.
Kay was not in that one.
Steel Magnolias. You were not in that one.
I was not in that.
Isaac, you weren't in that either. Kay was in that.
Kay was in that. Yeah, that was a beautiful show.
Yeah. And Moonlight and Magnolias. Upcoming. We hope. Who knows what's going to happen? But for right now, like most other theaters, we've got the fall planned. We have time set aside to do it, and we have everybody on the ready to come up and do it. So we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, Ryan, where are you, and how are you doing?
I know the gravity of the situation that's happening right now in the whole world. I and my wife Kay are actually doing extremely well. Kay's business as a massage therapist is now remote, so she works from her office, and then from her office she's on the computer, and she works with a lot of the old age homes through massage therapy. And I don't want to use the word counselor, but she's kind of like a life healer or a life coach. So she's actually been very busy during this time, and in the state of Wisconsin, craft brewers are very popular, considered essential businesses, and I work for Lakefront Brewery in Milwaukee. So my story started, I guess it was St. Patrick's Day. I was working on a brand new play by the playwright of Agnes of God, and he was in-house. We were down in Houston. It was Sunday, March 14th, and we were rehearsing, and the artistic director walked in, and the producing artistic director, and everybody important walked into our two-person rehearsal hall and said, things are not the way they're supposed to be in the world right now. We feel it best to call this. So they sent me home. I went, drove 24 hours straight back to Milwaukee. That show has now been moved from, we would have opened up middle of April. Now we are going to open up, sorry, I got to press weird buttons on my phone. We're now going to open up hopefully July 10th. Nothing in Texas can happen until after the 1st of July. So I'm in Milwaukee. Long story to say, I'm in Milwaukee. I'm quarantined at work and at home, so I'm not around anybody. I essentially walk into my part of the workplace. I put on my mask, I put on my gloves, and I package beer for Lakefront Brewery, and then I clock out, come home, and Kay and I are quarantined.
Yeah. How does it feel? You're in one of the epicenters in Wisconsin. I mean, we're not in a false sense of complacency. We know that the virus is everywhere, but we know that the tighter people are packed, the quicker it spreads, and just the more careful you have to be. And how does
those numbers seem pretty accurate. I mean, at least the numbers that I've been following. So it is real. It is a real threat. And the thing is that Kay and I don't see it. And that's hard. Like, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So we hear about it. We research it. It's very important for Kay's business.
Sure.
Not as important for where I'm at in the world right now. But so we don't see it because we don't go out. We literally are quarantined. So we're playing it on the safe side. So trusting our legislators and governors and all the people that seem to be in important positions to be safe at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were going to work at Dor Shakespeare.
Yes.
So
that publicly, that was going forward for a very long time, and both Amy and Michael Stebbins and the board sat down. I think this might be 2 weeks ago now, or maybe 1 week. It's weird how time just escapes our mind.
Yeah.
The best choice of action was for everybody to say, this probably isn't the right call to ask a lot of people to come into quarters, even though it was outside and they could have done a lot of things to maneuver people around the space. But knowing that the board is committed to going forward for future seasons, even though this was a 25th anniversary, they'll make next year the 26th amazing anniversary when things are safer. So they made that call within the last 2 weeks. I wish I knew the exact date, but yeah. So I would have been up there playing Hamlet in a Quarto 2 version, a Quarto 1 version of Hamlet, which is rarely ever done. Super nerdy, and then playing the comedic version of Hamlet in Complete Works of Shakespeare abridged by the Reduced Shakespeare Company. So I would have done that, and then my contract with y'all was piggybacked with that. So I would have stayed in Door County and made the long haul from Bailey's Harbor to Sturgeon Bay.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's talk about Dor Shakespeare. What, Bob?
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Let's talk a little bit about Dor Shakespeare while we're on the subject. That's actually where you and I met.
Yes.
All of us met. That's Kay and I met doing The Merchant of Venice.
Yes, which was
2008?
It was. It was the last financial crisis the world had seen. It affected especially artists. I mean, let's be honest, it affected many people, but it affected
that's exactly what it was. It was in 2009.
2009. Okay, yeah. So they did just the one show, and that's where you met Kay.
Yeah, and I recall you coming to see it.
Yeah, I was on contract somewhere else, and I had just enough time to come up and see the last week, I think it was.
Yeah, and Kay was beautiful in that. I can't remember the name of the character. I call it the Tup Tim role. She was the victimized young daughter, and it reminded me of Tup Tim and the King Knight. Is it Jessica? Is that a name of a character in Shakespeare?
No.
What on earth was her name? No. It's Shylock's daughter. What is her name?
I need to read the play.
I know. See, none of us can remember. Oh, I'm so glad. And
Where is she?
She was beautiful. And Ryan, I remember meeting you, and you were very nice. But I also remember that I had like 4 lines in that show. So, it was a pleasure to meet you, but you couldn't say any nice thing to me about, I really enjoyed you in the show. Because
I think I said you had a nice costume.
Yeah, I probably did have a very nice costume. It sounds about right. Well, then the next summer, you were in the company.
Yeah, was that when we did As You Look?
Much Ado.
Much Ado, plus there was another one. Deborah Babbage was in it with us.
Yeah, the Mrs. Malaprop.
Yeah,
The Rivals.
Wasn't Katie Dahl in that one? Didn't she play guitar with us?
Yeah.
And you play the accordion?
Yeah. Yeah, I was the priest who played the accordion. And you and Kay were opposite each other.
Yeah.
As Hero, which was Kay's part. Hero and Much Ado.
Where's my resume?
I know. What? Claudio. You were Claudio and she was Hero. And there was a review of that show.
Just own it.
Just own it. You were Claudio. So,
I was going to say Benedict.
Knows,
that's the lead.
That's Beatrice and Benedict. And
yes.
The opera that was made of Much Ado About Nothing was called Beatrice and Benedict.
Oh, really?
And everybody knows Beatrice and Benedict is the couple that's in. See, we can't remember your names, but we remember theirs because that's the show. So there was a review of that show, and we're eagerly awaiting our reviews after opening night.
Yeah.
Much Ado About Nothing is a play about 2 lovers named Claudio and Hero. So I guess you and Kay really made quite an impression in that show.
Oh, who was it? Was it Mr. Gerd that did that, or
no, that wasn't Warren's review. That was a different review. And yeah,
okay.
It was in a different paper. No, Warren, it was about Beatrice and Benedict, but the other review said it was about Claudio and Hero. But that's okay. It just means you guys were good.
Yeah, good, great.
And you were. You guys were wonderful in that, and it could have been about Claudio and Hero because I remember how good you were. Well, and then the next summer we did Twelfth Night.
That was the next summer right away. Just Kay that time, right?
Right. And you came to see it, and I actually had a part in that show.
You started out the show, I think.
I had lines. I was Feste.
You had the beautiful speech at the end.
Yeah. And you said
sat down on the hill.
Yeah, you said really nice things to me after that, and it meant the world to me because, you know, I was just a pretender. And
you were amazing in that show.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm not a Shakespearean actor, and you and Kay were like my idols because you guys were amazing. Well, you are so perfect with the text, Ryan, and Kay, how the frack did she do that? She would memorize her scenes like in the car on the way to rehearsal. She would be on book one day and they'd say, okay, we're going to be off book, you know, and Kay would say, yeah, I learned it in the car on the way here. And I'm like, how does she do that? And it's not just the memorization. I mean, she is an amazing interpretress of Shakespeare. And I mean, talk about the clarity of what it's about, of thought. Yeah. And both of you have such beautiful voices so that, and Jeff Herbst is another such, who I saw do Shakespeare years ago when we were in college together.
Yeah.
But, the beauty of your voices, along with the smarts about how to say it, just makes that poetry sing. And it was such a treat for me to be in that company for those 3 seasons with people like you. My gosh.
That melts my heart because I still remember your last lines. And one thing about Dor Shakespeare I love so much about being outside is that the lights come down slowly. It's the last speech.
Yeah.
You're out there. You're looking up at the stars, which makes all of us as an audience listen to the lyrical poetry, look up and just question what it is that our humanity is. And that's what's so beautiful about Dor County is that we get to go up there and explore about who we are as humans while we're on vacation. I love it so much. It's such a special place.
Yeah, it really is.
And I was so looking forward to seeing Hamlet.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And I hope that does eventually come to pass.
It is my dream role. It is now 4 times I've been offered it.
Oh, come on. That didn't happen. Oh, man.
Well, for those of you who don't know, and it's not really just another play. It's sort of the Mount Everest, the K2 of plays. Put Mount Everest and K2 together, and you have Hamlet. So I know you're going to be incredible in it, and
thank you.
Ryan, I didn't know you had a history of not playing Hamlet.
I know.
Oh, that's
my
awesome.
memoirs is going to be a huge book about how I've gotten so close and offered it so many times.
Oh, well, I hope this happens. And right here in our own backyard, what a treat for us it would be. Ryan, a question we've been asking everybody, and we must ask you, because the answers are surprising, and we're shocked that we really don't know this about some of our good friends. When and where, how did the theater bug bite you? And then after that, when did you decide when did you know that you wanted to do this, like, for a living? And I use air quotes.
Yeah.
For the living part, but professionally.
So it's usually a short story sitting at a bar having a conversation with somebody, and it usually starts with, I found theater late in life. I was 23 years old, and I was told either I could go do this job that I was miserable at, or there was this thing called grad school, and some grad schools actually paid you. And I was like, if a grad school is going to pay me to go back to school, I'll go do that. And they're like, yeah, you can go.
What were you studying in undergrad?
Undergrad was psych and philosophy. So, Bob, I know that you did your master thesis on Hamlet. So my undergrad work is existential psychotherapy and existential philosophy, like the cornerstones to poor Hamlet's monologuing.
Certainly.
So that's kind of the short story of it. And I always forget that I was very much influenced by the choir director, Deb Natsky, and Sean Postel, the band director at my little school of Hilbert, Wisconsin. There were
Good old Hilbert.
Look at old Hilbert. There were 42 of us in our class, and these two, they impressed upon me so much about, you can make art anywhere. Let's do art. And they did 10 seasons of a community theater, and every season I was asked to play trumpet in the pit band. And that part of the story I keep forgetting to tell people, is that I've been doing musicals since I could play the trumpet, and it just like completely goes beyond my mind that like I have this huge history about theater that I never seem to mention. It always goes with, oh, I found theater late in life, but I have to be reminded that my dad was like a supernumerary. He'd go on stage and hold things while people were singing in Anything Goes, and the whole community would show up to watch these musicals, and I'd play second trumpet up against Sean Postel, and it was so amazing. And then
it is.
So it's always been part of my life, and now.
So it was a thing that people did. It was a thing you did.
Yeah, I mean, just like, I don't know, people go and do fun things at water parks during the summer, or you go to Six Flags. Well, we just did community theater.
We did these shows.
Yeah, that's what you do in a small town. Yeah. It never occurred to me that would be so influential. I used to run marinas, so my first start in Door County was I worked down in Sturgeon Bay when Skipper Buds had a couple marinas down there, and then I went up to Alibi Dock and Fish Creek.
That part of the story I did know. I didn't know what your trumpet playing pit past. That's so funny.
My embouchure is good.
Yeah, your embouchure. It's not what it used to be.
No, it's not.
So when did it flip for you? When did you know that?
Was it during grad school?
It was actually after undergrad when a professor who you might actually know, he's a Wisconsin playwright, Richard Kalinowski. He wrote Beast on the Moon. Richard, when I was in undergrad, had kind of cornered me one day and said, there is a career. I mean, people do make a living on the stage doing theater. You really should consider this. I'm like, nobody gets paid to do theater. I just do it for fun. And that, combined with having one miserable year running marinas down south, completely changed my mind that I could be influenced by a couple of young artists coming up saying there's this thing called grad school. I ended up auditioning with them. They said, all you have to do is have a couple monologues. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just auditioned, and then I was running the marina in Fish Creek, and I get a phone call saying, we just lost 2 actors for this year at UW-Madison. If you can be here in the next 10 days, you have a spot at a completely paid program that concentrates on Shakespeare. Wow. And my life flipped. It was August, I think August 2nd or 3rd, on the docks in Fish Creek, and I immediately gave my official 10-day notice, like one does in the business. And I was down in Madison, going to school I think it was by like the 10th maybe, or the 12th maybe, something like that. I was in school, and then I never looked back, because then that courage bug kind of hits you, and when you get courage, you realize, if I work hard and I'm fearless, I think I might be successful at that. So I created this thing in my brain that said, if I audition 50 times, I will get one part. So all I have to do is audition. What's 50 times? 250 times. So basically, once a day, if I audition for the rest of my career, I will get 1 out of every 50 auditions, and I will work 5 times a year, and 5 times a year is about 50-ish weeks, maybe 45 to 50-ish weeks, and I'll be insured and have a pension and have a career. So I started looking at it in terms of numbers, just kind of some statistical analysis.
Excellent.
Amazing.
I wish I thought of that.
So do I. I wish you
never too late.
Too. Yeah. That's amazing. I knew about your marina past, but not about the community theater in Hilbert. That's really kind of amazing.
I think people do ask, like they'll ask, like, where did your career start? And somewhere along the road, I just started saying, I heard about grad school, and I didn't want to work. I wanted to go back to school. But the reality is I mean, I'm 14 years old. I can't even drive. My my dad has to get off of work and drive me over to the school so I can play second trumpet while anything goes is happening on stage. And it just had no occurrence that this is just what you do. I don't know.
So what was your first professional gig? First jobs hired as an actor outside of grad school?
Jack Young. In grad school, they let me go for a week so I could go to SETC, the Southeastern Theater Conference, and audition. Yeah. Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival was there. Jack Young was in his last year running that school program. And they hired me for Puck and Midsummer Night's Dream, and we traveled.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our program. We had a little technical issue there, but we seem to have solved it, right, Ryan?
How's the background? Does it look different?
Yeah, we had a little change of scene.
Yes, it does. So let me just ask the question again. So, Ryan.
Yeah.
What was your first professional job?
So the first professional job, we were allowed a week off of, so grad school, third year, the big thesis year, we were allowed a week off. I went to SETC, and this still kind of baffles me. There were 12 of us in our program, and I was the only one that actually left to go audition for things. So I don't know what happened there, but I went by myself. I went to, where did we go? I think it was DC, Washington, DC, auditioned. Jack Young saw me. And the reason why I bring Jack Young's name up is because, as you all know, this business, there are about 100 people in this business, and you cross paths with them all the time. So Jack Young hires me for my first paid job with Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival, doing Midsummer Night's Dream. I played Puck. We traveled around to different schools and did that. I think it was a 10-week contract, and they still do that at Pennsylvania Shakespeare Festival. Met a lot of great people, and then when my career started taking off in Houston, Texas, Jack Young runs the grad program at the University of Houston. So, I mean, it is guaranteed that once or twice a year I'm at Whole Foods in Montrose area, and there's Jack Young still teasing me for being such a young, crappy actor.
Was that a coincidence that he was there and you were there? In Houston?
Well, he went from, he created a Journeyman program, which I really am really impressed by people who decide that the education part of theater is so important that they spend their hard-earned time creating these huge programs of educating the next group of young artists coming up. So he created a Journeyman program, went to Pennsylvania Shakes, and then went on to continue this like Journeyman program, but at grad schools. So the university, actually got to word this correctly, Ohio University, not the University of Ohio, but Ohio University.
Sure.
He was there for 4 years, I think, and and the reason why I know all this is because he had a lot of great students that are still my friends, like Lenny Banovitz, who runs a theater company in New York, a Shakespeare company. He's was part of that program. And then Jack went over down to Houston after that, a bigger program.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, what was your first equity job? When did you get your card?
Next Act Theater, David Cesarini. And the reason I find my equity card was the biggest thing in my life. I mean, I had been told by all the actors in my career, especially my mentors who were the Milwaukee Rep. I mean, all those amazing actors I got to watch for 9 straight months.
You were an intern at the Rep.
Yeah, it's where I met Kay as well.
Yeah.
So little theater love there. So these mentors that I had, they talked about what equity means and how to join, and that it'll be magical and it'll be a celebration. And I was at Utah Shakespeare Festival, and I get a call from David Cesarini saying, "We would like to offer you your first equity contract. It will be for Ears on a Beetle. Jonathan Smoots is going to be directing it. It's just going to be you and I, Ryan." And my heart was just butterflies. And
what a trio.
Oh my God, it was amazing.
Yeah, I bet.
And so this great opportunity is coming. It's going to be first day of rehearsal. I get all excited for it. I'm just sweating like crazy. I walk in. My contract is on the table. It's just this one sheet of paper. It's like written out by David. I'm like, wow, equity is kind of old school on this. I sign this piece of paper. We start rehearsal, and our first break, I look over to Judy, Martell, the stage manager, I'm like, aren't we supposed to have like an equity meeting? It's like my first equity contract. I don't know anything about how this works. And she's like, you're not equity. I'm like, what? David was going to offer me my first equity contract. And I hear him in his office, like 300 yards down the hallway. And I hear him just say, oh, and he said a word that we probably can't use on the internets. And he comes running back in and says, Ryan, I'm sorry. I forgot. I'll have it to you by tomorrow. So my big celebration about my first equity contract was a complete fart in the wind.
Oh, sure. It happened on day 2.
It happened on day 2, yeah. And there was no cake even.
Oh,
what a jip.
so you worked a lot of theaters in Milwaukee, like the Rep and Next Act. And
Rep, Next Act, in tandem, I understudied with Renaissance. My big kind of coming out party was with Michael Wright, who was going to be directing for you this summer, right? Yeah.
Wright was going to be appearing with you in Moonlight and Magnolia as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Michael Wright, also a huge mentor in my life, took me under his wings and gave me a lot of great opportunities. And a lot of those opportunities were putting me in front of directors that I love, like Michael Cody. I mean, even Michael Wright, I auditioned for him quite a few times. And then he offered me a chance to direct because I mean, you know, Bob and James, like when I worked with you all, it wasn't something that I tell everybody in the world, like, I'm a director, I want to go out and direct. It's that other tool in my toolbox. And he was doing a comedy, a farce, which I just love farces so much. So he gave me a chance to direct. So I've worked at Chamber quite a bit.
And speaking from experience, you are hilarious in farces. Well, you're a riot. Your comic timing is amazing.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure to have you and Kay be half of the cast of the 39 Steps. And honest to God, it was like just add water with the two of you, you know, acting Chia Pet, just add water. Yeah, instant comedy. It was great fun. And,
let's talk about that summer, because that was pretty extraordinary summer all the way around.
It was a great summer.
You know, it was, I don't even remember the year. Was it 2014, 2013?
It was our second season, so it was 2012.
2012 was the first, so 2013.
Oh, 2013.
So we had you and Kay for the whole summer season, and doing, you know, the Glass Menagerie, House of Movies, Greater Tuna, and 39 Steps, and what a, you know, incredible, you know, roster of plays. And
what a huge season! That was huge.
So it was very ambitious.
You know, it was I don't know. It was as close as we got into a repertory company in terms of you know, using the same company of actors from play to play to play.
Yeah.
So how was that for you? I mean, it was you went from Tennessee Williams to Greater Tuna to directing John Guerra.
Ridiculous, wonderful farce.
Yeah.
Comedy low and high.
There's so few places that can do that, though. I mean, you put that on your roster, and it became an opportunity that no other place can really do. I mean, I would love to ask you all, like, how do you sit down and actually figure out, like, this show will complement this show, and then have a bunch of people say those are two completely different shows, and you trust your audience so much that we're going to entertain in one, we're going to challenge in another, we're going to bring back something that you may not even remember was a huge Broadway hit many a year ago. That is hard to kind of navigate through that and realize we're still going to be able to pack people in, because I remember some of those last performances of Greater Tuna, there were quite a few people that were, I mean, those were sold out performances.
Sardines is the word you're looking for. And Ryan, what we do, well, we had a meeting, and you were at it, if I recall correctly, at this very table that I'm sitting at now in our house in Sturgeon Bay. This was before TAP was a reality, and Bob and I were just scheming about what a Dor County, I think we even called it a Dor County Repertory Theater, what that might look like and who might want to be involved and what kind of people we would want in it. And you and Kay were among them. It was our last summer at Dor Shakespeare. And anyway, the point of all this is that one of the things Bob and I decided right from the beginning was that we would never dumb anything down. We would never talk down to our audience, pander. We would never do something that the point of doing it was to be a hit. I mean, we didn't pick things to be a flop. That's not what I mean. But you know what I mean, that there was no other reason to do the show than that it was a name title and everybody wants to see that, and it's always a hit. And I'm not going to name any plays because I don't want to diss any plays or productions. But we only picked things that we were really passionate about. That was the common denominator. And they ran and run the gamut from comedies low, Greater Tuna, high, Private Lives. 39 Steps is a high comedy. It's hard, but that's very sophisticated comedy. Dramas, classic, the Glass Menagerie, and contemporary, Red and Oleana. I mean, you know, late 20th and 21st century comedies. And the only things that seemed like money titles were maybe Steel Magnolias and then Driving Miss Daisy, which was a show that was to be earlier this season. Well, we would be starting to rehearse it pretty soon. But even those weren't picked because they had been successful films. They were picked because they're really compelling plays. And the plays, actually, in both cases are, I wouldn't say significantly, but they're quite different from the films. And if you only know them from the films, it is like you're seeing them for the first time. And yeah, maybe the name got you in, but we just never relied on that. And we count ourselves so lucky, Ryan, because our theater is small. So that's one of the reasons we can get away with it. So if it's a small cast show and we're playing to half capacity, we can still make a go of it. So we can take a chance on things. Now, knock wood, other than our first two productions of our first season, everything has paid for itself.
Really?
Yeah. Everything. And usually within the first 2 weeks. It doesn't pay for overhead, but the production expenses. The productions pay for themselves, which, I think is kind of amazing. And again, they're small productions, but even so, like you said, we do challenging, we do entertaining, we do just fun, we do uplifting and moving, and but those are all the things theater can do. And we cross genres from plays to musicals. We did an opera once, operettas.
I love it.
Yeah, just anything.
Do you ever have it where like an audience member will come in and say, I've been following you and your artist for so long. Boy, I wish you would do this show. And like
all the time. And some of the suggestions are really great. And most of them are really great. Some of them are just, I don't want to say ridiculously impractical. I mean, nobody's suggesting we do like a stage version of Gone with the Wind or something, with a cast of thousands and the burning of Atlanta. But some of them are just a little out of our reach right now, and are things that maybe when we grow a bit, we'll be able to consider. But, a cast of 9 is a cast of thousands for us.
It is. Yeah.
And if we get above 3 actors, it's a medium-sized show. So, we think pretty small as far as what we consider.
Basically, we made the decision that we wanted the audience to have a different experience with each play that they saw. So if they came to see one play in June, the one like coming in July is going to be a completely different type of experience for them.
Right.
And also, it was especially true in the early days here, but we chose seasons around people very strongly. because, so we depended upon people, and still do to a large extent, that we know who they are and what they can do, and people we want to work with. So it's not only plays we are passionate about, but it's people we're passionate about. And how do those two things converge? Plays that we want to do and the people we want to work with. And finding
that was a big part of how that 2013 season came to pass.
Oh yeah.
Was
having you and Kay, and the ridiculous way that you guys were like perfect in every show. I mean, who are the perfect people to be the key man and woman in the Glass Menagerie, and ditto in the 39 Steps? Not many. I mean, yes, good actors are good actors, but not everybody can just kind of cross genres like that and just really shine in detail in pieces that are so different.
And you gave us an opportunity that many theaters, when I mean many, I mean like 99% cannot offer someone. Like you just said, like doing 39 Steps, or I should say the first one we did was Glass Menagerie, going from Glass Menagerie to 39 Steps. Like that's not something that a theater company can offer. I mean, first of all, to be able to work with your wife is one of the most amazing honors anybody can have. So thank you. I mean, that's amazing. But to change it on a 180, I mean, talk about being flexible in a space. I mean, and it teaches us a lot too. We're still young actors. We have so much that we want to learn about this craft. So
we're old. We'll teach you.
Well, the screen takes off 20 years at least.
Oh yeah. So we knew we had you, we had Kay, we had others, Amy Ensign, Dan Clower for that year, and all that stuff. And so that's how that particular season came together. It was the people combined. So it wasn't like we're going to do Glass Menagerie. Who can we get?
Yeah.
And as Dan reminded us, he did the costumes that season. Do you remember that?
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Dan, the costumes were
versatile.
Greater Tuna.
Upstairs. He was upstairs on his sewing machine.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. And
I'm glad you said on his sewing machine, because
that's right.
I didn't have one.
And then also we want to have other directors here, so that you were the first person that we've had outside of ourselves directing one of our plays.
That was one of the biggest honors I ever had, because
and it was a great experience for me. And
Bob, that's not entirely true. You were the first person we asked, because we had inherited the summer before
that's true.
A glorious production of Shirley Valentine that had been done at TAP like 3 nights in the large theater as part of the TAP season that Amy Ensign did, and our dear friend Doc Hopper, may he rest in peace, directed so beautifully within an inch of its life. I mean, that was a fabulous show. And, by the second night, Bob had said, James, we need to have this as one of the shows in our season.
Sure.
And aside from the convenience of it having been rehearsed and basically ready to go with a little brush up, it was a spectacular performance. But we can't take credit for having made that happen. Judy Drew, our predecessor at TAP, had arranged that production. I think Doc and Amy cooked it up together, and Judy said, "Yeah, let's do it." So by the time we took over, we had inherited that. So we did have one guest director who wasn't us before you, but you were the first one that we were able to ask to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know that Doc's one of his favorite shows is House of Blue Leaves?
I found that out.
Yeah,
I found that out. Oh yeah.
That was very important for him to watch you on stage, Bob. That was very, very important in his life.
Well, it's one of
day. No one's forgiven Bob for murdering Amy Ensign during that show.
Yeah, well, that's
including
true.
Me.
That's
no
true.
spoilers. I haven't read it yet.
Oh. Oops.
It's one of my favorite plays, and and you're directing your boss basically. I don't know if that was awkward for you.
It never felt that way.
It never felt that way. I mean, I would occasionally, remind myself, I can't say this or I can't say that because
Well, and Bob, you had directed House of Blue Leaves in college, right?
Yeah. I mean, so by the time I got into rehearsal, I just completely surrendered to you because that's the luxury of having not being in charge for a change and just surrendering to the director in charge and just being an actor.
I had a friend who was an artistic director who was acting with me in a show, and he looked over and said, "This is so great. I have one job, just to be an actor." I'm like, "This is a hard work." He goes, "Yeah, it's hard work. Now try running a theater on top of that." I'm like, "Oh, good."
Oh my God. Yeah. And see, Ryan, it's funny you should say that because, during our Dor Shakespeare summers, we were making theater and we were in beautiful Dor County. And it was like, I was on top of the world. It was like, this is heaven. I'm in it.
Yep.
I'm soaking in it, Madge. This is it. And when we run our own theater, we'll be able to pick the shows and we'll still be in heaven. Yeah. Well, I was so wrong. I'm not saying we don't love what we do, but there's a huge difference between being a member of an acting company and you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse, and then your only responsibility is to get up there on the stage and do like 150% of what you can do in the show that night. That was wonderful. And go to every beach in Dor County with Deborah Babbage during the day. Yeah, as you know, we did.
You swam quite a bit that year, if I remember right.
Oh,
you were
yeah.
pretty much out in those lakes swimming every day.
Oh, yeah, we were everywhere. That doesn't happen anymore. Yes, I still find time to go swimming every day in the summer. But it's quite different than the experience was of just being an actor in a company. It's quite different. The experience of the county and the experience of the theater that you're doing. And, Suzanne and Jerry were running Dor Shakespeare then, and Suzanne is one of my very oldest friends, so it wasn't like I didn't feel like I had a stake in it. I mean, anytime you act in a show, you have a stake in it, but, it wasn't just another job. It was something really important, and it was the focus of my existence. But nevertheless, there was Dor County Fun Time, and that really doesn't happen too much in our summers now. We have a couple of days where we can kind of, we'll go to the county fair today, or something. But it seemed like an endless summer of pig mud wrestling at the Balmy Threshery for Shakespeare, and which
I still love.
I know, I know, but it's not so much that anymore. But it's different. It's okay. It's a different perspective on how life works here. I know you and Kay love Dor County. And
it is our spiritual home.
Yeah, we try every year to get you guys up here, and sometimes it works out.
Which we're so grateful for. Sometimes
it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. So if anybody's still watching us on TV, if not seeing Ryan and Kay isn't because we haven't tried or that we haven't had the idea to do it. It just sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. And Kay is moving in different directions and trying different careers. And I do believe does she still act? Ever?
Kay, I mean, I don't want to speak for Kay, even though she's my wife and I love her very much, but I'm going to. She has said that she wants to pursue the massage therapy and the healing arts practice 150%. If she feels like it's her calling, she would try and be willing to say, hey, this great opportunity, it's a show that she's always loved and she's wanted to do it. It happens to work out perfectly in her schedule, and she can do both at the same time.
Yeah.
So she hasn't said no, because she always lives that life, is that I don't ever want to say no to something. Theater has given her a career in her life. I do want to say one thing, like, if anybody is wondering, like, well, James and Bob, if they say, Ryan, Kay, why don't you come up and do this? And like, well, it doesn't work out. Why sometimes it doesn't work out is because a lot of those times that I have heard from you, every year I do go to Texas and I do a panto. Like, that's one example of those those dates are kind of set in stone. And if they overlap by 1 week, I mean, that takes me out. Like, I can't be in two places at one time.
Right. And theater contracts are all in different times. So it often happens to an actor where there's like, if it's an overlap of 1 week, you can't take the gig unless something, extraordinary can be worked out. But It does happen. And as far as Kay being in the healing arts, from the first day of rehearsal at Dor Shakespeare, she's always been a healer. It is her calling, and she did it when she was an actor, and she'll do it now. And I do hope that she can find a way to keep the actor in her active.
Yeah,
occasionally.
She's a natural at it.
Oh, she's marvelous, as are you. We're going to have to wrap up this broadcast.
I want to say one thing though. Call attention to
Bob. Wrap it up.
Well, we asked a lot of people to send us videos.
Yeah.
And
that.
And you sent us this basically this production. It's a 3-act play, beautifully done. Well, no, it's just beautifully done. You know, I mean, we're all, you know,
released it yet, but
we're all, you know, just staring in our little green lights of our computers right now, like we are doing right now. But you actually, you know, did a production, and I've seen other stuff you've done as well. And so, tell me about that. I mean, when did you get into video production and doing?
I've always had a love of the camera, and for me, theater is philosophy. It is being on stage in real time with real people watching you. But there's something about taking a camera and pressing that shutter button, and it captures life in one moment. And when you hold down, you have a miniature movie. And I've just fallen in love with like this idea of journaling, what it is that I get to do. I have a godchild now in my life. My sister, there's only one baby in our family, and I want to take pictures of this little baby, like my little godchild, and little movies. And it went from a hobby into a, you know what? I have a responsibility as an artist to let people know that there are shows going on, and theater is very important. And what better way than the one thing that we all do, and we all enjoy a little movie here or there, or a little TV in our lives.
Sure.
But I tried balancing the two and trying to figure out, I'm already at rehearsal. I'm already doing these things, taking pictures and making little videos. What if I were to blend theater along with my love of this hobby of this camera? And I think like all great hobbies is you say, oh, this is fun, but what if I took it to the next level? Well, yeah. What if I took it to the next level after that? What if I took it to the next level after that? The video I did for y'all, I mean, that was probably 60, 80 hours worth of work. All work that I love. And it's just this short little video, but it takes so much time to set up a camera. And then you realize, well, you're doing great quality work, and people admire the effort that you put in. And you can really definitely tell when people do put in the extra time. And it's just a reflection, I think, of the theater world we live in, is that if you put in the time, the show reflects the work that you put in. And with this video, I feel like it can also be kind of like another arm to my career, another tool in my toolbox to say, I'm in a show right now. Like when we do Moonlight, if time is right, people are safe, and we're there, I want to be able to pick up the camera and say, you know, here's this guy playing this role. Here's this woman playing the secretary that comes in. I want to interview them, and then I want to be able to put that onto your website and say, come and see this. This is an important piece in history, and you're going to be in Dor County, and you're going to have a great time and use it as a vacation. So I want to put that out into the world. And we have these phones that are in our hands at any given time, and we can do the movies. I mean, basically what we're doing right now is just a little mini movie, but if you put the camera in 500 different angles, you can actually start getting different angles and start manipulating pacing, and all of a sudden you become a director. So I get to be the actor, I get to be the director, I get to be the writer. I dare not say lighting designer, because my best buddy Jason Fassel would destroy me if I said I was lighting designer, because that is one thing I don't understand at all.
Well, it's really wonderful. I encourage anybody, if you haven't seen it, go to our website. And
it's up. We have released it.
It's a it's a great. People have sent in some marvelous stuff, and yours is definitely one of them. And so look up Ryan's video on our website and all the others.
Thank you for mentioning that, Bob. Appreciate it.
Sure. So we do have to wrap this.
We do. We really have to wrap it up.
Anything you'd like to say, Ryan, in closing?
In farewell.
I just want to say thank you to both of you. we mentioned it just a little bit how hard this job is, and we all love what we get to do. Not all of us are meant to run theater companies, and there are very few people that are, and you two are meant to, and you've been so successful, and we look up to you as mentors in our lives, and I hope all the world gets a chance to see the great work that you do. And I travel from Milwaukee up to see the work that you do. I mean, that's a long trip just because I trust the work that you do, and being a part of it is the greatest gift that an actor can receive. So I'm saying thank you from the bottom of my heart for offering art in Dor County. It means the world to us.
Oh, that means so much to us, Ryan. It really does. And we love seeing your little face when you come up to see a show. I'm all verklempt. That's a Jewish word that means, I don't know what. But whatever it is, it's Yiddish.
Yiddish.
Yes, and on that lovely note, we're going to have to close. We have a sponsor, an anonymous sponsor for our Tap Talks.
Oh,
friend of the theater, a friend of us all.
that's amazing.
Yeah, so thank you for your interest in these programs and helping us keep ourselves in front of the public and catch up with some of our good old pals.
Yeah.
And
sponsor.
Yeah, thank you. And everybody, be safe and be well. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan.